Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Christina Maag, the dynamic founder of Hoopla. Hoopla is a one-stop shop for marketing, merchandise, and business gifts. Their extensive range of branded products will ensure you find something to suit your vision. Christina brings a fresh, high-energy approach to building unique experiences that spark joy and drive attention for consumer-facing brands. From launching viral campaigns to building memorable local experiences in Boise, Christina is redefining what experiential marketing means for modern companies. Welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you.
I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take me on a little trip down memory lane to
Okay.
before you started Hoopla.
Okay.
What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting?
Sure. So I grew up in San Francisco, and when I graduated high school, I bounced around college a lot and did not graduate until I was 32 because I was always working full time. And so I ended up in a career of being an executive assistant to C-level executives at Morgan Stanley in the investment banking division and Micron and some kind of bigger companies. And that was really good niche for me because I was very organized and good at kind of problem solving. And then at a point, and I guess I would end up buying branded promotional products here and there as being an executive assistant. But when I was at Micron, I just got to a point where I wanted to kind of leave like big companies and work for a smaller company and just get out of that corporate America type thing. And so I had the opportunity to work at a promotional products company, a local one, and see the other side of it, which it never crossed my mind that people did this for a living. And so when I was working there, I realized how much I loved the industry because you're like a solutions partner, it's project based, but you also need to be creative. And I really liked it, but I didn't like the company I was working for.
Mm,
Their corporate culture and just style of selling was too aggressive for me. And so my husband said, you should just start your own company. And so I said no at first, but then I was like, what do I have to lose? I'm not very happy where I currently am. So I did do that. And I did that right before COVID hit, which people say, wow, but actually was like perfect because I had enough money saved up to like literally make no money for 6 months. So
nice.
it wasn't like I was going in there thinking, okay, I'm losing all this revenue monthly. I had no revenue. So it was like any sales I had was good sales. And I had figured out my bills to know exactly how much I had to sell a month to make sure I could cover my bills without dipping into my nest eggs. People always say, wow, but it worked out perfect for me compared to someone that would have been established and really panicking because they were used to a certain revenue every month. So that's how that started. And so that we're fast forwarding now almost 6 years. So I was a one person business for the first, I don't know, maybe 9 months to a year. And my first year, I sold maybe 400 grand. And then now we're at about $2 million a year. And we
Nice.
have about, aside from myself, we have 4 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee.
Okay.
And
So
we just bought our own building. So this building I'm talking to you out of, we just bought 2 months ago.
congratulations. And 2 million with a very lean staff. It's
Yes.
a big, bloated base, if that makes sense. What help the listeners get more context into Hoopla and specifically what you guys do. So let's start off with who would you say is your ideal customer? And then from there, what are the core offerings, services? Walk me through that.
I think it's evolved over time. Like I would say my first year in business, I was just real hungry. I would chase any lead and really go after any type of client, whether it was someone ordering 10 t-shirts to like the bigger clients. I was just really hungry to get myself established. Now, fast forward 5 years later, I would say me personally as the owner, CEO, but also still a salesperson. I only have the bandwidth to focus on like Fortune 500 companies that are spending maybe $250,000 to $500,000 a year with the company, give or take, depending on their year. So those are for me, what I look for is the companies that have a lot of departments or growth opportunities to service more than just one person within the company. And usually with those companies comes a lot more complexity, which is dealing with their systems, like whether it's invoicing through Ariba or just the ins and outs of it. And then two of my employees, which were hired on more for supportive roles within the company, like graphic design, building online stores. And then the other person was hired more for like operations and doing our in-house decorations, so like embroidery and heat press and stuff. They really liked selling once they understood the business. So they are quasi salespeople. So they have their own criteria they look for. But at this point, we get a lot of leads, we get a lot of referrals. So it's much easier for me compared to when I was by myself to look at a lead when someone kind of says, hey, I got your name from blah, blah, blah. This is what I'm interested in. If it's not going to be in that, I hate to say, Fortune 500 type situation, then I can easily say, okay, great. And I'll add one of the more supporting salespeople say is going to help you out because I know that'll help build their sales pipeline, but also it's not taking away from like my focus on my current clients that kind of are a little more high maintenance in a good way.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. So you're not saying no to that business,
No,
but you're just passing it on to somebody else inside of the organization.
correct.
Okay, walk me through what a typical client engagement looks like. Like when you're working with these Fortune 500 companies, how long is typically that engagement? Is it indefinite, depending on what they need? Walk me through that a little bit.
If you're doing your job well, it should be infinite because they're not firing you. Because with branded merchandise, there's a start and a stop to it. It's not a long sales cycle. Usually someone's going to say, I have an event and I'm going to a conference and I need something for my conference giveaway table and I need all my people to have polos and I need blah, blah, blah. And the conference is this day in Las Vegas. Okay, that's the sales cycle right there. I know that they're going to need it in 4 weeks. I know what their budget is. I'm going to send them the ideas. They're going to narrow down what they like. I'm going to start providing like virtuals, which are like for them to see what the products are going to look like. And then once we drill down, we're going to talk about quantity and all of that. And then we'll get them a formal quote. They approve it. Then it just starts the order management process, which I no longer am involved in that process. I have support on that. So they'll make sure the proofs are approved so that everything looks right and the delivery dates are getting hit and everything. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it is from beginning to end. And that's for an existing client or even a new client. But newer clients, I would say, especially if they've not ordered a lot of promotional products, there's a little bit more of an education piece that happens in the beginning.
Okay, so it's an as needed basis.
Correct.
Okay, very cool. Let's dive into the client acquisition side. Now, you mentioned a lot of it is referrals right now. When you were in your first year and you sold that first 400K, where did that come from?
Oh my gosh. I think I just had no shame. And I had interviewed with a lot of companies when I was trying to leave that last role locally. And I knew, even though I got offered some of those jobs, I didn't want to just take any job after being in a situation where I was getting paid okay, pretty well, but not liking the environment. It had flipped something in my mind to understand that I can't just take a job because it's a job. I have to take it because I actually think I'll be happy there.
Mm,
Um, and I just wasn't feeling like that feeling that was going to happen before I started my business. So when I did start my business, every single company I interviewed with, I would reach out to them and just say, hey, I started my own company. Could I meet with your marketing person or whoever's in charge of buying branded merch? Everyone said yes. So that's how I started off just the small. And then I just went on LinkedIn. I had a big LinkedIn following already because when I was working at Micron, I helped them launch, I don't know, back then it was okay to say it was Pimp Your LinkedIn kind of event. And that was to help people get headshots and how to do your LinkedIn. That was when LinkedIn first started popping off. So I did that process while I was helping with that event. So my LinkedIn was pretty robust connection wise. So I just started really putting it out there, what I was doing and asking people, let anyone know. And I'd always ask people to post pictures. I'd drop off swag bags and be like, post it and tag me on LinkedIn. And so I was just really aggressive in a very nice way of like just putting myself out there and making sure people knew what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And that was mainly through DMs? Was it cold call?
Yeah. No
Like,
DMs, cold calls. They were all, I wouldn't say warm leads per se, but they were people I knew when I was first reaching out to people to set up meetings with when I started the company. It was just, hey, I interviewed with you. So it was like having that into the company, knowing who to email. And then as for LinkedIn, I mean, you're connected to all these followers. I personally get so many DMs, and it's evolved so much more in the last several years. The amount of DMs you get with all the automation that is involved with it. I get a lot of DMs, and that doesn't it rarely works for me. So I always kind of look at it through that lens. Do I want to just email someone I don't know at all and say something? I'd rather, we get a lot of leads already. So we just try to be active on the social media and kind of comment on people's things and make sure we're putting out there what we're doing. We go to a lot of events locally and stuff, so people recognize us. And
yeah, that makes sense. DMs, you have to be very strategic. Obviously, you came on this podcast from a LinkedIn DM.
yes, and they usually don't work. And so you guys
Yeah.
do a good job.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to know what you're doing. It can work, but you got to be
Mhm.
able to stand out.
Absolutely.
I'm curious now, what is the most effective lead gen slash client acquisition channel for you guys today?
I would say it would probably be us getting out in the community during golf season when there's so many golf tournaments and people will reach out to us and say, do you want to play in the golf tournament? Do you want to host a hole? Do you want to? I used to never do it before I had staff because there's only one of me. And now we do quite a few, and it helps people recognize us. Like people will say, oh my gosh, I heard you're going to be here because we give away really good stuff, obviously, since we do branded merch when we are at events. And so people are like, oh, and we have our colors pink. So we really stand out from the typical red, green, black like booths. And so it helps generate a buzz and people, oh, I follow you on Instagram or I've seen your stuff. And so I think that would probably be a big one. I would also say like the promotional products industry is pretty heavily male dominated and an older demographic. It's starting to change. And I would say most of the people buying branded merch for their companies are women. So us being all women at this company also helps us stand out. And women, at least I'm in Boise, Idaho, they're very supportive, like the business community here. And so it's easy to get those referrals. Yeah.
I'm curious, at what point in the business did you realize, okay, I need to bring on my first full-time employee?
That's a pretty funny story. So I was training for my first marathon. I hated running, but I got into running during COVID because I lived in a 1,400 square foot house with two small children and they were at home from school because school got closed down.
Yeah.
And I was like, was doing this couch to 5K with my son because he was supposed to do it at school. And I was like, I can't have him do it by himself. And he was maybe, I think he was 7 or maybe 8. And so then I was doing it with him. And then I realized that was how I could get away from everyone if I picked up running. So I actually got into running. Fast forward a couple years, I was training for my first marathon. I was running up to 22 miles in one shot. And then I'm 43, so I was 39 at the time. I found out I was pregnant. So I had an 8 and a 10-year-old. We were done having kids. we and I was working probably 60, 70 hours a week on the business on my own. And
Wow.
so when I found out I was pregnant, I was just like, okay, I cannot continue at this pace with being pregnant and then I'll have a baby and that was like a sign that I needed to hire my first person. It was a bumpy road to begin with, I would say, because I'd always done it by myself. But also I hired the wrong person to begin with. And when I hired the second person who's still with the company and replaced the first person, it took me a while to actually let her have ownership over the tasks I needed her to have ownership over. My pregnancy was not horrible, but it didn't go smoothly. So I was in the hospital for a week. And that was when I just physically couldn't do any work. And she just really took over and showed me she knew what she was doing. And I needed to step back and let her do her thing. And that was great. And so that was my first one. And then
Yeah.
it just helped me become a better leader, like finally understanding I needed to like let go of all of that control and just trust people. And yeah.
I love that. I'm super curious. What did you learn from the first bad hire to then the second person? Did you notice any things that you could have maybe disqualified them beforehand?
Yeah,
Makes sense?
yeah. Yes, it does make sense. I would say when I was onboarding that first person, not that it makes a difference or not, it was a man, and I found myself creating systems to help him do what I needed him to do. And I realized quickly I was his assistant. I was constantly creating systems and processes for him, and he still wasn't doing them right. And I was
Yeah,
like, this isn't going to work. And then so I think I should have followed my gut from the beginning instead of trying to make it work for as long as I did, which was only like probably six weeks or a couple months. And then I would say we've made other bad hires. Like we have made other bad hires. And I think I talked to all of my employees at once, and we all decided the ones that have been here for quite a long time. We have three that are full-time that have just been with me for 2, 3 years. And every time we do have a bad hire, a couple things we implemented. 6 week trial. So we tell the person if they're working in another job, let's do a 6 week trial so we know you like it and we know it's going to be a good fit for us. And that has alleviated a lot of bad hires because you can tell usually within that time. But also, my team has also expressed to me after we have had a couple bad hires, they're like, I would rather be working at max capacity than to have someone on the team that I feel like isn't pulling their weight or able to really be up to our standards. And so
mm,
that makes me feel more confident in understanding when we do find the right person, great, but like don't just fill a seat to fill a seat.
yeah. That's huge. That's huge. And it's amazing that they think like that too. Like
Yeah,
people on your team.
we have good culture here for sure.
That's awesome. Walk me through your vision. So when you think over the next, let's say, 2 years,
Yeah,
obviously you grew very fast in the last 6 years.
yeah.
What are those targets that you're aiming for in the future?
So when I first started a company, really all I wanted to do was like never have employees and just pay my bills. I didn't realize it was gonna like evolved to all of this. So I would say I'm still in the weeds enough to not have the bandwidth to be a strategic leader right now, which I know is horrible to say, but like we are, like you said, we're a lean team. And so I don't have the time to like really set all these crazy goals. We have had so much change alone in this year with buying a building. We had a company that was backing us financially. So it's our company, but they were paying the suppliers and then taking the payments from our clients and then giving us the profit so that we wouldn't have to finance $2 million worth of orders a year.
Got it.
But there was a service fee associated with that. So when we bought the building, we decided to cut ties and go independent. So we're embarking on financing everything ourselves moving forward, and that's starting in a couple weeks. So we've had so much change in the last 6 months that I think I just want all of us to feel confident in how we're doing things and creating those processes. I told my team, I was like, we do $2 million a year. I'm happy if we hit 2 million. If we can't hit 2 million this year, that's okay too. I want us to feel good about the way we're doing things, and let's focus on more of a monetary goal starting next year when we've really had time to acclimate to all these changes.
100%. Yeah, that's a huge change. And
Yeah.
that's exciting. What is the best way for people to reach out to you?
Just yeah, email. I like email. Email's
Okay,
good. LinkedIn's fine. Any of those things. Our website's really good. If you go to our website, you can find different ways to contact us and stuff and see what we do and see who we are. Any of those ways. We're pretty responsive any way you slice it. So
do you
yeah.
want to plug those different channels, like your email?
Sure.
What?
Yeah. So our email's hooplaboise.com. So it's HOOPLABOISE.com. That's the best way. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll find our TikTok channel, our Instagram, our LinkedIn. So you could just click any of those buttons, or you can just on the top hit contact us and it'll give you a form and you can fill it out. And we respond same day. And we all love what we do. So.
I love it. Any final words before you wrap up?
One thing, I have a lot of girlfriends that are in corporate America that'll come to me and say, "Hey, I'm really hating my job or I really want to change. What do you think I could do to change my trajectory kind of because of what I did?" And I know this may not sound like the best advice, but the advice I would give is if you really want to change your career, I don't recommend saying, I'll have a side hustle while doing your normal life and your job, because I tried that too. You can
Mm,
never become as successful as quickly when you don't have anything on the line. So I think quitting my job and making this like my sole way of surviving and making money really gave me like the everything I needed to like put into becoming successful. So I think that's like something that's very, you're not going to get anywhere if you just make it a side hustle. It's too difficult.
yeah, that's very well said. I think it's different depending on your situation. If you don't have 6 months of savings, I get it.
Yeah.
Better than nothing. It's
Yeah.
definitely better to at least go for it and use your 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then your not or your 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. to build what you're looking to build. But then also if you find yourself in a position where you do have those savings, burn the
Well,
book.
figure out your budget, figure out what's the leanest you can go. And I think for me, why that was so challenging is because I did have young children. So 5 to 9, either way, I'm occupied usually with children. So that's probably why it didn't work for me. But yeah, I totally agree with you. If you can be disciplined and have the time to set aside, it's definitely a good way to dip your toes in.
100%. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to reach out to Christina, hooplaboise.com. We'll link it around here so it'll be pretty easy to find. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency owner, and you're looking to scale your business and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.